Okay, my screen is going to come up in a moment, so we can have the basic introduction to what we're here for. Can we all see my screen? If you can see the screen,
Yes, sir.
please confirm.
Yes, sir.
Yes, I can see the screen.
Okay, so let's do a quick round of introduction. My name is Martins Osazuwa Iyekipolo, right? Primarily, I am a behavioral designer. That means that I design products, programs, and processes or services, as it were, for organizations. And I've been doing that for the last 6 years, and that has allowed me to work across Nigeria, a couple of countries in Africa, and currently I'm working for Nucleus Impact based in Boston, and then I'm working as a project lead, right? So primarily one of the things I do is project management, but the methodology that I use is human-centered design, right? And then as I do project management and human-centered design, I realize that project management is not what it used to be. Processes are evolving, companies are demanding a lot of insights from designing projects and products that are focused on people, their behavior, their motivations, their influences, and their fears, right? And that's how we have this particular curriculum for human-centered design focused on how do we use the process of human-centered design in project management. So trust me, the capacity you'll be developing in the course of this section is so robust that you would not only be a project manager understanding agile processes, but you would also understand human-centered design, which will give you an edge in the project management space. So how do we interact with customers? How do we interact with programs? How do we interact with products to be sure that we are taking ideas, all right, taking processes, and ensuring that they are creating meaningful experiences and giving us profit in our company, and also ensuring that the value that we intend to create is supplied to the people that need them. All of these are the reasons why we practice.
I particularly prefer you to pen up.
Sorry, who just spoke? Someone just spoke. Do you want to ask a question? Hello? Someone just spoke. Can we hear me, guys?
I can hear you, sir. I think she didn't know her mic was unmuted.
Alright, so how do we do all of those things in a short time to meet the limited budget that we have? That's the essence of this process. Okay, so a quick round up and attendance, right? Everyone is going to go straight to introducing themselves, state the reason why you want to learn this process, and then we'll take it from there. So let's start with Mr. CI. Mr. CI, once you introduce yourself, then you can pass it to the next person by calling their name as well. Over to you, Mr. CI.
Okay, good afternoon, everybody. My name is C.I. Chukuma, C for Chukunedum, I for Ifedi. I'm an entrepreneur, okay, self-employed entrepreneur, okay, and also a student in the health field. Okay, I signed up for project management, this project management course because past years I've been opportune to work as a project manager for UDID, and also I've taken courses too on a Coursera. That's this Google development course on project management also, and I think taking this course will enable me to function in my proposed field as a community stroke public health officer in time to come. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Sia. Please call on the next person and
And
pass the
so I'll
baton.
call on Rukeme to introduce herself.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Ijiro Keme,
Hi, Rukeme.
and I sir. Okay, I'm currently in Abuja. I recently finished my NYSC, that's my service, and I'm currently unemployed. I registered for this course because I believe it will help me to build a career in project management, though I know very, very little about project management. But signing up for this course will help me develop a career in it. Thank you.
All right.
So I'll be moving on to Adeyomo.
Thank you. Adeyemo, over to you.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Ademo
Your voice is very faint.
Kenge.
Adeyemo, if you can be louder.
Oh, is it better now?
Yeah.
Okay. My name is Ademo Kenge, and I currently stay in Ibadan, and I'm a freelance writer. I am taking this course with the intention to scale career-wise, to pivot to project management, and yeah, I'm hoping to gain knowledge pretty much in this course. Um, I think the last person will be Judith.
Okay, Judy says she's at work. She can't
Hello,
talk.
everyone.
Oh,
Are you
she can
hearing
talk.
me?
Okay, go on, Judy.
I just had to, go to a place so that I can say something. Okay, my name is Judith, and I live in Obaya, Abia State. I am a nurse midwife. Currently, I signed up for this course to enable me in my managerial roles in the medical section. So that is it. Thank you.
All right. So moving on, guys. Project management has come to stay. It has evolved in the past couple of years, and it has given us almost everything you see around, right? Whether you want to build a house, it's a project. Whether you want to go on a vacation, it's a project. Whatever it is you really want to do, right, it's also a project. So those of you in class, please go to the WhatsApp chat box, right, in the on WhatsApp, and type that you are in class. All right. So that's your form of attendance. We take this attendance now. We take another in the next 2 hours, and then we proceed from there. You're not going to be seeing so much slides today because what I'm going to do is walk you through this. This is your outline for week one. All right. Um, in the course of this week, what you need to learn and master is what are the competencies of a project manager? What are the techniques used in project management, right? And then what is the project life cycle? What are the tools that we use and what are the processes that we use, right? So today we focus on just topic number one, project manager and the competencies. But tomorrow we will look at the techniques, the life cycle, the tools, and the processes. All right. So, because I do not intend for this class to be sort of an overload, right? I want it to be such that you can take a breather at every single moment. So, for you to get the most out of this, you need to have your note in place. So, let's start. Let's first understand what each of us are aware of when we talk about the term project management. So when you hear project management, look at me, what comes to mind?
Okay. To me, project management is the act of planning, and also organizing and managing a project in order to achieve a predefined goal.
Okay, so let's extract the keywords you just mentioned. You said the act
Planning,
of
the
planning
act of planning,
and what?
organizing,
Organizing, and then what?
and also managing.
And also managing. Planning, we are organizing, and we are also managing. All right. Okay, thank you. Mr. Chukuma, over to you.
Okay. I think my answer won't be far fetched from what Rukema said. It's the in the process of planning, budgeting, organizing, leading, and directing people in order to achieve a set goal, a defined goal. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Now let's have the next person. Adeyemo.
I think project management is like when you like in my head I feel like it is like working in a team to manage a project and to get results eventually. Yeah.
Come again with the last phrase.
Okay, I said I think it is working with a team of people, whether let's say if you are developing a product, for instance, working with maybe developers and designers and managing a product, setting timelines for goals to accomplish goals, then managing the product a project to the end and invariably achieving results.
Fantastic. Okay. You use a lot of big words. Invariably, achieve, result. So we have result. So we would see that the entire process, right, is managing, organizing, delivering a specific kind of result. A specific kind of result, right? Now, if we look at project management as a process, we also have to look at it as a concept, and then we also have to look at it as a system, right? So by looking at project management as a process, a concept, and as a system, we're able to see it from different perspectives. Now take note of what I have just said. Now, my intention throughout these 8 weeks is to ensure that you are not only ready as a project manager, a human-centered designer, but as someone who can also write the PMP exam. So whatever you're going to learn is going to be robust enough for you to write for your PMP exam. Do we understand?
Yeah, we understand that.
Great.
Yes.
So
Yes, sir.
at the end of these 8 weeks, you should be grounded enough to write the PMP exam. The PMP exam is the international standard for project management in the US, right? But those persons who want to work in the UK, right, even though you can also work in the UK with PMP, right, they can then go ahead and write Prince 2. The UK methodology for project management is Prince 2 Foundation and Prince 2 Practitioner for those who want to work in NGOs, as it were, right? But all of these are ingrained in PMP. But you know, these certification institutions are always trying to find one new way to um, restructure the name, restructure the term, but the processes and the foundation across board is always the same, right? Rosie Buck or Rory Buck actually said that if we are defining project management, we have to think of it as a way of developing a structure, right? We have to think of a way of developing a structure where the variables of time, the variables of cost, right, the variables of resources and human behavior have to come together. Now, that is project management. How do I manage the variable of time? How do I manage the variable of cost? How do I manage the variable of resources alongside the behavior of the people involved in the process? That is project management. If you're building a house, that's project management. From planning the building, designing the building, getting the team to work together, ensuring that the site is cleared, and at the end of the day, completing the task is how you go about the process. All right. So now it's simple, right? It's very simple. But you see, this particular thing is what people are paid annually $120,000 for abroad, or $80,000 annually for abroad, right? It depends on how they are working. Do we get? Do we
Yes,
get?
sir.
Now,
Yes.
first understand this. The phone you are using right now, when they wanted to work on that phone, right? When they needed to create that particular phone, it was a process of project management that was employed, right? Now, the books that you read, writing a book is a process, all right? Publishing a book is a process. Getting married is a process, right? Those of you who have gotten married before, you would you would testify that the process is not funny, because by the time you are planning the event and thinking of the wedding gown and thinking of the food, the catering, the what's it called, the amount of time you have to get the things your in-laws are asking for, and the amount of time you need to get to put together the venue, the canopies or the tent, however you want to use, all of this require a person called the project manager. Now, the project manager is the guy that holds it all together. Whether the process is complex or the process is simple depends on one person, the project manager. The project manager is the most important variable in the project management process. That's the reason why, if this is who you are going to become, then you need to know who this guy is. So, who is a project manager? Who is a project manager? Rukeme.
A project manager is the one who plans and organize, like it's the person in charge of the project. He plans and organize and also manage the projects.
CI.
Okay, just like we have a team, like the leader of a team, the project manager is the leader of, or the, yes, now the leader of the project, the leader of the team organizing the project.
All right. Yemo.
A project manager is the person that takes charge of a project to achieve results, end results.
All right. Now get this process. You guys have used one word. In charge, takes charge, leading a team, right? So you guys have mentioned one key thing. Can you all see that one key thing can be summarized into one key word called leadership, right? Leadership. Everything you've said is
Yes, sir.
summarized into one
Yes,
key
sir.
word called leadership. And leadership is a competency for a project manager, right? Leadership is the first and the most important competency for a project manager. So this is why it is important. If you are becoming a project manager, you have to first understand leadership. You have to first understand leadership. All right. Now we're not talking about political leadership, because that is also a form of leadership. We're talking about leadership that gets things done. All right. Leadership that delivers results. Leadership that creates a product. Leadership that manages a process. Leadership that manages a team. That's what we're talking about. Are we together, guys?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
So now let's first agree on a simplified definition for who a project manager is, right? Let's agree to a simplified definition for who a project manager is. So first, how do you guys think we should define a project manager in our own words? How should we define a project manager?
A project manager is a leader.
Okay. A leader. A project manager is a leader. That's one.
A project manager is a person who has the required project management competencies.
Okay, the person who has the project management competency, right? All right, so basically we can summarize that to be that guy, the project manager, is the individual responsible for managing the project, right? Are we
Yes,
Yes.
together?
sir.
So,
Yes, sir.
one line definition: the individual responsible for managing the project. Let's not make it complex, let's not make it spiritual. All right, so if that is one line definition, let's also define the other people responsible or involved in the process, right? If we're developing a product, we will need a customer, right? So let's also define the customer. Who is the customer? If we've defined the project manager as the guy responsible for managing the project, who is the customer in one sentence?
The customer is the person paying for the manager of the project.
Okay, the
A customer
customer.
is okay. See how you can go.
No, no, go on, go on.
Okay, a customer is someone hoping to get satisfaction for the cost of the money he has paid.
Okay, the guy wants satisfaction because he has spent money, right? The guy is paying for something, like the first lady said. So that guy can be an individual or that guy can be an organization, right? So first things first, you must
Yes, sir.
understand that the customer can be the individual or the organization. All right. Now on the picture to the top right, the customer for this particular project I was managing was the MIT team in the US, right? They were the ones who needed to use the product of the project I was working on in that scenario with the Ekiti State government. Now, the customer is the individual or the organization that will use the product, the program, or the service that emerges from the project. Are we together? You will never find this on the slides. In short, I made it such that the slides are so scanty there is nothing on it. Do you understand?
Sorry, sir. Please, can you come again with
So
this
just in
customer?
case you are thinking of asking for slides, you will not find slides. So just now take note as I'm talking. The individual or organization that will use either the product or the service, right? Or the program that comes from the project. That's the customer. Are we together? I don't even know if we're together at this point.
Yes, sir. We're
We are
together.
together.
Are we together forever?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
How are we even sure that we are together forever? Alright, just kidding, guys. Okay. Moving on, we've talked about who.
We've talked about the project manager and we've talked about the customer.
Alright. So now let's talk about someone else who was also involved in the process. Stakeholder, right? Who is the stakeholder? Who is the stakeholder?
Okay. From the picture from your slide, and from the description you made, I think the stakeholder is the Ekiti state government, who are the persons probably financing the project.
Okay. Now, I need one more definition or description from anyone else in the class before we also go around that process.
A stakeholder. Stakeholders are people that are interested in the results that are interested in the results that will be gotten from the project.
All right. So now let's now ensure it is important that one of the key competencies that you need to meet, right? If you're going to sit for the PMP exam, is you are supposed to be able to identify all the key stakeholders of the project management process, right? You're supposed to be able to identify all the key stakeholders of the project management process. The key word for identifying the stakeholder is interests. Interest. All right? Interest. Anyone whose interest may be positively or negatively impacted by the project is the stakeholder. Because as the word goes, it has a stake. Something is what? At stake. His money might be at stake, his time might be at stake, his energy might be at stake, right? So we can say a project manager is someone who is at stake. Do we get? Hello, people?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
The guy is what? At stake.
Is at stake.
His life might be at stake. So if the guy's life and time is at stake, what does that tell us? It means that that guy is the project manager, right? If the guy's money is at stake, it means that that guy is also who? The customer, right? Hello?
Yes, sir. I can hear you, sir.
So if that guy's what else might be at stake for the guy? If the guy's performance is at stake, it means that the guy is also part of the process, right? Now, in this process, stakeholders, the key stakeholders of a project, most times they include the project manager, the customer, all right, the project team, the sponsor, and most times they also include something called the PMO. The PMO is called the Project Management Office. All right, are we together?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So now get it and get it simply. As long as my interest is at stake and can be impacted positively or negatively by the project, I am a stakeholder. And the key stakeholders in a project includes the project manager, the customer, the project team, all right, the sponsor, and most times, like I said, the PMO. All right. So what do we do with stakeholders? It is your responsibility as a project manager to be able to identify what? Identify the stakeholders. Now, for you to create or organize your project properly, you must identify your stakeholders. In short, stakeholder identification is one of the most important things you do in the process. Are we still together?
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
Stakeholder identification is essential as we continue. Right now, when you have identified your stakeholders, the reason we're identifying them is we need to be sure what their interests are, right? So if we have an idea of what are their basic interests, imagine you are getting married. Who are the stakeholders involved in your wedding? Let's use that to understand what we're trying to say. Who are the stakeholders involved in your wedding?
Your intended spouse, your families.
Why are you saying you? Why are you referring it to me? Why are you shooting that kind
Oh,
of? No,
oh,
please
sorry.
personalize it. Don't say you. Don't turn
The
it to one
bride and the
direction.
groom, the bride and the groom, the intended, the family of the bride and the groom, and maybe their friends, because I feel like they'll also contribute in one way or the other to the wedding.
Okay, fantastic. The bride and the groom, their friends, because they'll contribute in one way or the other. Okay, the people collecting the bride price and those collecting the money, in short, those coming to eat rice, right?
Yes, pretty much.
Okay, so those guys who are coming to eat rice, what do they have to lose? If you cancel your wedding all of a sudden, sorry, not you, if the wedding is cancelled, what do those guys have to lose?
Lose
If
eating
they
their
They
rice.
bought
have
clothes for
nothing
it,
to lose.
Judith, what did you
but if they
say?
bought,
I thought someone said something. I thought someone said they have nothing to lose. Hello, people, talk to me now. Am I alone here?
No, I said they
Yeah,
lose.
what about with you?
Okay. If we cancel the wedding on the very morning when the wedding is already ongoing, maybe the accounting, the items of the bride price or stuff, and it's not complete, and then all of a sudden the bride gets angry and says she's not doing again, right?
Yes, sir.
What? Who will be most impacted? Who will feel the most negative impact of that decision?
I think it's those who came prepared for the food because the bride and the groom were already in the know that the wedding won't hold.
No, it's not like they know that the wedding will not hold, right? The guy was ready, the groom has been ready, the groom family is ready, they traveled all the way down to Abia, all right? And then they brought all the lists, the long list, the trailer load of wrapper, the yam, the oil and stuff, right? And then the girl ups and she's like, there's something missing, and then we can no longer do this wedding. I don't feel the way I used to feel yesterday, right? Or the way I was feeling yesterday, I'm not feeling that way again, so wedding cancelled. So who has something to lose the most in that context?
the groom
The
and
groom
his
and
family.
his people.
Why is it the
Because they don't travel. They've traveled
They've already
far,
bought everything.
And they've spent a lot already.
right? So in that context, right, it means that when they were planning the wedding, somebody was not properly managing the risk, right? Hello?
Yeah.
Somebody
Yes,
was
sir.
not
Yes, sir.
properly managing the risk. So you see, that tells us that risk management is essential, right? Hello, people.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So risk management is very, very important. Risk management is very, very important. Now, what's another competency that we've been able to talk about? We've talked about leadership, we've talked about planning, because then we need to make another decision. So that imagine that everybody who was interested in the wedding were already at the reception venue to come and eat rice, while the things were supposed to be happening in the traditional wedding at home. The reception venue is already packed, people are already there, they're already waiting, yeah. And then halfway into the traditional, the wedding was cancelled, yeah. And these guys waited till 6 p.m. or waited till 4 p.m. at the reception venue. The vendors have brought rice, they brought food, everything was already on site, right? The souvenirs are already in the hall with those guys. Now, if it's by 4:30 or by 6 p.m., somebody eventually says, why are the couples not here yet? Let me go and check what's happening. And the person eventually realizes that the wedding has been cancelled since. We will see that what is happening there was some break in communication, right? And you would not blame the groom for not announcing the news that his wedding has closed down, right? Because the communication would naturally start spreading by itself if the wedding is cancelled. Now, in the process, what we are trying to highlight here today is the fact that not only are you supposed to identify all the stakeholders before your project starts, you're supposed to identify what their interests are, right? You're supposed to determine their requirements before the work begins, right? You should know how many tubers of yam you are bringing. You should know how many legs of cow, how many cow legs you are bringing. You should know the expectations of your mother-in-law, right? So you should know the expectations of your mother-in-laws. You should know the expectations of the people. Then you should communicate with them and then manage their influence. So you should manage their influence at the beginning and till the end, right? All of these are essential to stakeholder management. So the management of the stakeholders is also the responsibility of the project manager, okay? As we know, it's important, like I said, that the project manager should identify the key stakeholders in the project, and the key stakeholders involves the project manager, the customer, the project team, the PMO, the sponsors, etc., right? And what we do is we first need to identify the stakeholders, know what their requirements are, understand their expectations, and always communicate with them, right? So these are all the initial understandings that we need for what? For what? Project management. Project management. So it's important that we understand these basics that I have given before we move forward. Do you understand all I just said?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
All right. Now, everything I just said can be summarized into one keyword, right? The keyword is understanding the project environment. Everyone say understanding the project environment.
Understanding the
Understanding
project
the project
environment.
Understanding the project environment.
So, understanding the project environment is a key area of expertise for a project manager. So, a project manager is a person who has an understanding of the project environment, right? He knows why the project is going to be done. He knows who the stakeholders are. He knows what the processes are. And he manages these things very well. Do we understand?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So, like we said earlier, those stakeholders, right, are the individuals or organizations that are actively involved in the project, and if their interest is going to be positively or negatively impacted, right, they are stakeholders. They are stakeholders, all right? And so we should have like a clear understanding of all of this. We should have a clear understanding of all of this as we move forward. As we move forward. So it's always important that we should be able to like define who a project manager is from an understanding of what he does. Okay? Who a project manager is can only be understood from what he does. Right? So now that I'm explaining basically what he's doing, like I just mentioned, one of the key area of expertise that he needs is understanding the project environment. Alright? So what does it mean to understand the project environment? To understand the project environment, it means that you know who the stakeholders are. Alright? You know why the project is being done. Alright? You know what is the strategic plan of the organization involved. Okay? So this is very much important. This is very much important for you as a project manager. It's very important for you as a project manager. And the reason I'm emphasizing this is because this is our first class, right? And it's very much foundational. Every other thing you understand afterwards is hanging on by a thread. Okay? So, now, let's now try and see if we have a definition now of who a project manager is. So now, Chukuma or Rukeme or anyone else on the call, who is a project manager?
Okay.
Okay.
Who is speaking? State your name and then speak.
Chukuma
Okay, speak.
speaking. A project manager can be simply a person who understands the project environment, who understands the reason for a project, who has the various project competencies, and is able to achieve the goals that will be able to deliver the project with the required or with the required time bound.
All right. Thank you very much. You can call on someone else to speak and also define who a project manager is.
Okay. Adeyemo.
A project manager is someone who understands why the project is being done, who knows who the stakeholders are, who who has estimated the risks involved in managing a project, and who also communicates effectively with stakeholders during the duration of the project.
All right. One more person and then we'll go to the next task.
Okay. A project manager is an individual who is at stake, and also he understands the project environment, he knows the stakeholder, and he also knows their interests and their requirements, and he communicates with them effectively. And also he knows the strategic plan and also manage the project.
All right. Beautiful. Now, let's pick three keywords to describe a project manager. Three keywords. So, what is a project manager's responsibility, right? So when you're thinking of the keywords that you're going to use to describe the project manager, think of what he's responsible for, think of what he's involved in, right? And think of what he has to be capable of. All right, think of capability, responsibility, and involvement when you're thinking of the keywords to describe a project manager. So, project manager, let's describe keywords.
Okay, for capability, I would say competencies. He has project management competencies.
He has project management competencies. So the project manager has project management competencies. Okay, project management competencies is a summary of all of the things that we are going to look at now, which is on the screen. Yeah. So now I need someone to say something different from what Mr. Sia has said, and then I'll pick a third person who would explain what the word competencies mean. All right. So someone should also describe who a project manager is in one word. Should I call names? There are just five of you
Um,
here. So okay, Yemo, go on.
a project manager is someone that has um, good leadership in terms of capability. The person has good leadership and communication skills. In terms of responsibility, the project manager understands the project environment and carries everybody along, from the customers to the stakeholders and the project team. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Now that we have said that, I need someone to now explain the word competencies. Competencies. Who's going to explain the word for us? Competencies.
Okay, competencies. These are skills, abilities, and behaviors that can contribute to individuals or organizational performance.
Hmm. Interesting. Behaviors that can contribute to individual performance or organizational performance. Okay. Someone dropped something in the chat box. Let me see. Transferable skills, acquired abilities. Transferable skills or acquired abilities. Okay, interesting. So what we're having repeatedly is skills, abilities, skills and abilities. All right, Jessica, I see that you joined us. When did you join in? And what did you start hearing when you joined, so that I will know when to start? Is Jessica on this call? Okay, moving on. All right, we have on the screen the quote I put on the screen. I said the independent variables of time, cost, resources, and human behavior come together in project management, right? Now, if you're talking about competencies, right, you're talking about skills, you're talking about abilities, you're also talking about behaviors. Skills and abilities must be manifested in behavior. So, because I think at the end of the day, it is not a competence unless it is a repeated behavior. Do you understand? Unless it is a repeated behavior or it's a demonstrable behavior, it is not a competence. A competence is behavior that has been repeated, ability that has been repeated, skills that have been repeated, knowledge that has been demonstrated, right? Capacity that you have demonstrated. Hello? So
Yeah, we
if
can
we are
hear you, sir.
redefining competency, while redefining competency to be demonstrated abilities, demonstrated what? Knowledge, demonstrated behavior. So summarize your competency to mean demonstrated behavior. So we are saying that the project manager competencies are the behaviors he must demonstrate, the abilities he must demonstrate, all right, the knowledge he must demonstrate, okay, the things that are observable, the things that are demonstrated, the things that are displayed, right, the things that are what other synonyms can we use to express that? Performed, right? Performed. So these things are competencies. Now the key competencies of the project manager are highlighted on the screen. We have leadership, we have planning, we have accountability, risk management, monitoring and controlling, decision making, problem solving, and communication. Now, the reason I'm not going to start from leadership is because most times we think we need to start from leadership, but truth be told, we have to start from decision making. Decision making. So, let's start from decision making. If we're starting from decision making, what exactly is decision making, guys? What is decision making? Hello? Decision making. Anyone? Anyone? At least try to
This
answer before you check Google.
the-
You said what?
I said this is the process of making choices.
Decision making, making choices.
Um, okay. I think it is taking into consideration all the factors available and making, yeah, taking into account all the factors available and making decisions based on it.
Taking into account factors available and making decisions. Right? I think it is right in the very word. Right? Decision making. Decision making, the making of decisions. I don't think there's anything supernatural about that particular word or phrase. Okay, Mr. Chukuma.
No, I totally agree, sir.
Okay, so now if we consider decision making to be the starting point of a competencies of the project manager, right? What would that mean for us as project managers? Now, decision making. Have you ever had to wear a dress for an event? And then while you are deciding, yeah, you're like, I'm gonna wear this brown gown for this wedding, right? And then you eventually get to the wedding. Remember the wedding that was cancelled from our first example. But this time around, the wedding was not cancelled. What changed is that the event changed. Have you ever got into an event and you feel overdressed for the event? Anyone? Raise your hand. All right. So you get to an event, you eventually get to the place, and then you are overdressed for the occasion. Or have you ever seen somebody wearing turtleneck inside hot sun? In Nigeria, and he's trekking. It's not like he's driving in a car where there's air condition, right? Or he's wearing a leather jacket in Abuja, right? Now, certain decisions are influenced. This is why you need to understand the ability to make precise decisions that cut through facts and figures. The ability to make precise decisions that cut through facts and figures considers the risks and the constraints from the other influences of the various stakeholders in the process. Is why the project manager must make precise decisions, timely decisions, right? Having considered the constraints and the influences of the stakeholders. It means that the project manager must be sharp in his decision making. The project manager must be swift in his decision making. The project manager must embrace unbiased processes that are very straightforward in reaching conclusions. So the project managers must make logical conclusions based on facts and figures. So the project manager must understand the process of empiricism. 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 Does anybody know what empiricism means here? Empiricism. We're taking attendance in the next 2 minutes, guys. Next 2 minutes, just type on WhatsApp that you are in class. What is empiricism?
I think you should take.
Rukeme, I think I lost you. I started to hear you, but I couldn't hear you.
Okay, I said I think it should take decision based on experience.
Rukeme, is Google your friend?
No, sir.
You said what? Did you say yes?
I said I think it. Can you hear me, sir?
I can hear you. I said, is Google your friend?
No, sir. No, sir.
Why is Google not your friend? Now, decision making for a project manager is based on the theory of empiricism. In short, one of the project agile methodologies that you will be introduced to is founded upon the theory of empiricism. Okay, so everyone, you need to take note of the word empiricism, all right, as we move forward. Okay, so while we are holding on to empiricism, I want someone to also tell me what you think it means, empiricism. What's empiricism? Rukeme has told me what she thinks it means. Making decisions based on experiences. Chukuma, Jessica, Judith, Yemo, empiricism. I thought this was a hot class, but it seems like it's a silent one.
Making decisions based on experiences and observations.
Experiences and observation. Okay, let's explain it now. Now, there is the idealist, there is the realist, right? All of these are schools of thought in philosophy. The philosophical concept, right, that only that which has been practiced, experienced, right, can be learned from, is the foundation upon which empiricism was built. Empiricism, right? Empiricism had the foundation built on that very fact that by devotion to practice, which takes time, things are learned or lessons are learned, right? And these lessons that are learned, right, is what we should draw our knowledge from. So I know by my experience. I know by my experience. I know by the things that I'm seeing. I know by the practice I have gone through. All right, that is the whole concept of empiricism. So if decision making is based on the framework of empiricism, it means that cultivating your expertise for decision making will require devotion to the practice of swift decision making, logical decision making. All right, so building the capacity for swift decision making would mean that you consider the pros and the cons, right? Consider the interest and the what people have at stake when the project is ongoing to arrive at your decision. For example, if you're working on a project where you need to arrive at the date of a training or the date of the venue for the execution of a training, if all the team members are based in Nasarawa and you want to hold a training in Abuja, right? Or if all the team members are based in Niger State and you want to hold the training in Abuja for 3 days because of the expatriates that you are bringing into the country, then that decision needs to be made considering the fact that, number one, your team members are going to travel down. You have to house them, you have to feed them, provide per diem for them, all right, every single day for 1 week of the training. You have to provide security for whoever you are bringing, right? And then if you are taking the training to them, it will remove the cost of hotel because all of your team members can go home and come to the venue, but you still have to provide for tea, and but on top of that you have to provide for security. Now you will start to consider the location for the training. Is it secure and safe for the expatriates that are coming? If we bring Oyibo to this place, would they not be kidnapped after 1 week? Right? Now these are conditions. So you could have planned that the training will hold in Niger State, but change your mind on that fact that there is insecurity at this time, right, in so and so place in the north, so we cannot have the training happen there. Okay, so this is what happens after considering the facts, the figures, right, considering the interest of everyone involved. A logical decision can be reached, but the project manager must arrive at these decisions very fast, because if you don't, you will not only be wasting time, you'll be wasting money. Do we understand?
Yes, sir.
Yes, ma'am.
Now it is this decision making that helps your planning, that helps your risk management, that helps your monitoring and controlling, that helps communication, that also helps problem solving. Do you understand? What will you have for dinner today? Have you decided what to eat for dinner? Have you decided what to eat for dinner? Adeyemo, have you decided what to eat for dinner?
No.
Why?
I don't. I don't know. I have not decided yet.
Okay, now get the reason I'm asking all of these questions. I'm trying to show you that decision making is at the heart of the project management competency. That's what I'm trying to show you, right? Now, if you're going to decide what to have for dinner, it's going to also be based on the logical facts of time, finances, right? And the other activities you have to carry out. Number one, do you live alone or you live by yourself? Would other people influence that decision? If you make rice, would your mom eat, all right, or would your roommate eat or something, right? These are things that must be considered. Okay, so decision making is at the heart of your project management competency. It is the one you should start to take time to cultivate, all right, as we move forward. Okay, the next thing you want to see, right, is communication. So I want Chukuma to explain communication for us.
Okay, communication as regards to project management simply means the project manager understanding the project, knows every details about the project, being able to, or rather be able to communicate with the project management team as well as the stakeholders, okay, stakeholders of the project, be able to receive feedbacks from them, and then being able to communicate back to him too.
Okay, all right. So the clear checklist of transferring information, receiving efficient feedback, right? Making decisive conclusions, right? Is very much important. Okay? Communication is another thing that affects a project manager. Now, imagine if something was wrong with your project and you have not communicated with your team, or the team does not even understand what's going on in the project. The project is going to be doomed to failure, right? Communication is important, whether it's real time communication, how do you manage this communication, right? What tools and resources would you use? Would you need to be on site to be managing the communication? Would you need to be on the field? If you are not going to be on the field, how do you know what's happening on the field? Right? All of these are variables that the project manager considers, right, across board. Communication is a very effective tool for problem solving because most of the problems can be solved either by communication or by decisions. Do you understand? Communication can solve problems and it can also allow us to be accountable. Communication is a means of expressing accountability. Do you understand? So, project management, all right, requires us to communicate in written formats, right, and also orally. Written formats would require us to communicate with project charters, technical reports, right, situational analysis, etc., right? So communication is also a form of risk management. Communication allows us to what? Manage risks. Okay? So how are you able to identify risk? How are you able to identify risk as what's it called? As a project manager? How are you able to monitor and control the processes as a project manager? So monitoring and control requires two skills: observation and proactiveness. All right, proactive observation. So if we create that phrase, it will be proactive observation. So we are saying that proactive observation enables the project manager to consider the context, consider the people involved, consider the risk or exposure to risk, and control these things. Control these things. So communication must be controlled. Communication allows us to express accountability. Communication allows us to monitor and control processes. Communication allows us to manage risk. All right. Communication most times can be done while planning is ongoing or can be done throughout the process. Communication has to be at the beginning, at the end, at the middle of the entire process. Right? So do we understand?
Yes, sir.
So if we started from decision making, we moved on to communication, and then now we're moving on to leadership. Now, communication is an expression of leadership. Communication is an expression of leadership. Communication is an expression of plans. Communication is an expression of accountability. Communication is an expression for all of these, right? So this is how projects are managed. This is the competency that is required. So now I need someone to explain what is a risk. What is a risk? Hello, people.
Okay, I would say a risk is an identified challenge, an identified challenge which is prospective. Okay, meaning that it has not occurred, but you think it will be a challenge prospectively.
All right. So risks for us, right, are things that we cannot control. Any exposure to danger is summarized to be a risk. Okay? How we see it, let me try and see if, okay, I can't find any of that right now. One of the things we do in managing projects is we're able to identify the risks involved in the project during the planning of the project. We're also able to identify measures of mitigating the risk, measures of risk mitigations. How do we reduce the risk? So we cannot completely eliminate the risk because the risk could be economic factors, the risk could be environmental factors, the risk could be security factors. These cannot be completely eliminated, but they can be mitigated. Now, a good project manager should know what measures to put in place for risk management. Do you understand? So all of these are foundational truths and knowledge that the project manager must be competent in, all right, as he seeks to put his feet into the water, right? So the project manager is robust in planning, he's robust in leadership, he's robust in accountability, he's robust in decision making, he's robust in problem solving, yeah? The project manager is robust in all of these areas because all of these are important for him. So before we move on to the next part of what we are looking at foundationally, it's important that we have defined terminologies. All right, let's define some terminologies, okay, as we move forward. The first term I would like us to define this morning or this afternoon is project management. All right, project management. I already have said to us throughout the call, right, that this process of project management is how we develop a structure that allows us to bring together time, cost, resources, and human behavior to achieve set expectations, right? That can be a simple definition of project management. Now, but clearly, you would also agree with me that project management is how you use the skills or competencies in this context, how you use the skills, the techniques to plan and control tasks, resources needed for a project, right? Both within an organization and outside an organization to achieve set results, right? The use of skills and techniques for the planning and the controlling of tasks and resources for internal and external projects to achieve set results, to achieve set deliverables. That is project management. Okay? Now, and what is the purpose of
Yes,
the
sir, can
project?
you come again with that definition?
The use of techniques, the use of skills, all right? The use of techniques and skills for planning and controlling of tasks and resources, all right, for projects that are within and outside an organization, right, in order to achieve deliverables or results. All right, that's project management. So moving from that, we would say, what is the purpose of project management? It's very simple: to achieve successful project completion. All right, to achieve successful project completion, that is the purpose of project management. So a project is successful if it is finished on time, if it is finished within the budget, right, and if it satisfies the end user. Three factors for successful project completion. Number one, if a project is finished on time, if it is finished within its cost budget, if it is actually satisfying the end user, then it is actually a successful project. Do we understand? Feedback. Confirm you understand.
Yes, we do, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yemo, are you still here?
Yes, I'm here.
Your voice is faint.
I'm here.
Okay, that's fine. All right. So let's define a project. Now, what do we say is a project? What do we say is a project? I need us to define a project. You can search on Google. Be free. You need to know it, so you can search if you want to search. Feel free. So what is a project? I'm waiting, guys. Your search results have not opened yet. Hello, people. Are we still here?
Yeah, I'm with you, sir.
Who is defining for us, please? No one is defining project for us. This is serious.
Okay, sir. Let me go. A project is simply a set of tasks which turns an idea into something. A set of tasks which turns an idea into something.
When you say something, what is something?
Okay, that's the project. That's the task which turns an idea. That's when they've come together to plan and to manage. That something is the desired result. That's at the end.
Okay. I'll give you two essential key points for the global standard of PMPs that you need to understand for the definition of a project. When you create a unique product, service, or result, right, by means of a temporary endeavor, right, basically by means of the process that has a beginning and an end, you are talking about a project. So basically, a project is a temporary endeavor. Number one, with a beginning and an end. A temporary endeavor with the beginning and an end. So we have a temporary endeavor. What's the endeavor? a temporary effort, right, that has a start and a finish is a project. Okay, so projects are basically efforts that are put to create products, programs, processes, services, all of that. That's a project. Yeah. Now, if we say projects are efforts, it means that these efforts should create a unique product, service, or result. A unique product, service, or result. That is also what it is. Okay, so let's now say this. Any set of effort, so effort can be summarized to be activities, tasks, all right? Any set of activities that has a start point and an end point and results in the accomplishment of a major outcome is a project. So let's now put that in maybe our own term. So a set of related activities with a start point and an end point, or with a start and end point, yeah, that results in a major outcome. That results in a major outcome, that is a project. Okay, so let me see if I can type that. Let's create a Jamboard for this. Just a moment, trying to create a Jamboard so that we can follow. Can we see my screen? Hi guys, can we see the screen?
Yes, sir.
So let's call this definitions. Definition of terms. Alright. Let's divide this into parts. Okay. So if we're defining a project, I said the first thing we need to know is that a project, okay, this is all caps. Can we see it? Can we see?
Yes, sir.
All right. Set of activities with defined start and end point and results in a major outcome. That is a project. So now let's bring out those 3 key points that I mentioned earlier for us here. If we are bringing out those key points, we would put them here. So the first one, we said that this particular process should what? Is actually temporary. So a project is a temporary endeavor, right? With a beginning and an end. Alright? That's a project. Number 2, a project is what? A project creates a unique product, creates a unique product, creates a unique service or results, like a cancelled wedding. That's a unique result, right? Okay, so now let's have examples, guys. Examples of projects. Let's have examples. So my example is a cancelled wedding. What are your example? What's your example, Adeyemo? What's your example, Chukuma? What's your example, Jessica? Guys, I need examples. Examples of projects.
A get together.
A party. Okay. Any more example? Construction of a road is a project. Now, it's important that you are able to identify two things. All right? As we move forward, we should be able to tell the difference between a temporary endeavor that has a start and an end and operations. Because most times we think that they are the same. So there's a difference between projects and operations. So operations management and project management are not the same. Are we listening, guys?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
There's
sir.
a difference between operations management and project management. So this is what I want you to look at now. If we are talking about operations management, what are operations? What are operations? Now, if you want to talk about operations, the first thing that should come to your mind is an example like replying emails, answering phone calls, taking meal orders in a restaurant, right? Booking flights, hotel accommodations, making payments, right? Any more examples? Hello, people.
Maybe having a briefing section.
All right. Okay. Now, from these things, we can say that operations are repeated or they are repetitive, right? Operations are repetitive. Operations are repetitive. They are repeated over time. Operations are repetitive and ongoing, right? The day you stop those operations, most likely your business might stop, right? The day you stop operations, your business might most likely stop. But projects, on the other hand, right? Projects are unique and non-repetitive, right? Are we following?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, projects have a definite start and end. have a definite start and ending, right? They have a defined start. Defined sounds more correct. Have a defined start and end, right? Operations do not have a defined start. Operations are indefinite. So there is no end to the collection of taxes by Agberos in Lagos State. They will keep collecting. It's not a project, it's an operation. Do you understand? Operations management and project management are separate things. Alright? So basically we're saying that projects are temporary. Now, so far we've looked at some core things and some core differences. So this is the guy. This project manager is supposed to tell the difference between all of this. This project manager is supposed to be able to manage the processes, supposed to be able to do these things. He's supposed to know the difference in all of this, right? Now, what are the responsibilities of a project manager? Right? Back to our slide. What are the responsibilities of a project manager? This is where we're going to stop tonight. So we're going to focus on this slide. This is the last content we're stopping, because tomorrow we have a lot of ground. So this is basically foundational. All right. So quick feedback. Who can tell me the major things we've looked at so far? Adeyemo, I've not been hearing you. I think maybe your network has been bad.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you now.
Okay. All right. We've talked about identifying stakeholders. We've talked about the competencies, how decision making is a very important part of project management. We've also talked about how communication is important to a project, and how to risks. We've talked about risks also. Yeah, so and we've defined project management and identified who a project manager is.
Okay. So let me get a list of stakeholders from you, Rukeme. Rukeme, give me the list of stakeholders that I stated at the beginning. So let me share this slide so that I can take what you're about to say. So,
Okay. You talked about the project manager, the customer.
Hold
Yes.
on. The key stakeholders, yeah? So number one, we said,
We have the project manager.
okay. Number two, we said what?
We have the customers.
Number three, we said what?
We have the project team. Number 4, the sponsor.
Okay.
Then you said in some cases we have the PMO.
The project management office, right?
Yeah.
And sometimes we also have the influencer, right? The influencer, they can be people, they can be groups. So the funny thing about the influencer is influencers are not directly related to the product or the project. Are usually indirectly related to the acquisition or use of the project's product. An example is the CEO. An example is the CEO. They can influence the project positively or negatively. They are basically influencers, right? So that's what we said. So we said it's also important to, what do we do with stakeholders? We identify stakeholders, right? So we identify stakeholders as project managers. We do not just identify stakeholders, we determine what's it called, their requirements, right? What do they need? We determine their requirements. We also determine their expectations, and so beside their expectations, we communicate with them, all right? And then we do not just communicate with them, we also manage their influence. Are we together, guys?
Yes, sir.
So this is how we relate. So when we talk about stakeholder management, this is how we relate. So stakeholders must be involved, but their involvement must be managed, right? All right. So stakeholders are involved. Don't forget this keyword. Involved, but what? Managed. Involved, but managed. Involved, but managed. Okay. If this is understood, so can we go back to the responsibilities of the project manager, guys?
Yes, sir.
Hello.
Yes, sir.
All right. Okay. So this is the slides that we were on. So what's the first responsibility we have on the screen, guys?
Planning.
Right? So usually I want to state this here. This might not this is not the exhaustive list of the responsibility of the stakeholder, but this is the core responsibilities, or these are the core responsibilities of the state of the project manager. These are like the things that he has to be able to do for you to call him a project manager. So we call him a project manager because he can do these things. We don't call him a project manager because his name is a project manager. Project manager is not a name. Project manager is a responsibility, is a role. Alright? So there is nothing emphasizing or beautiful about that title, because it can be a very messy process. Right? It can be a very messy process. And when it becomes a messed up process, trust me, the entire thing, your interest in project management might just die. Right? It might just die. Okay. Now, you must understand that as a project manager, part of the things that happen, right, and that you are responsible for is the process of planning. The process of planning. Alright, the process of planning. You're also responsible for directing, you're responsible for delegating tasks, you're responsible for managing time, managing risk, managing processes, you're responsible for managing deliverables, you're responsible for conducting meetings, managing documentation, right, and engaging with stakeholders. So guy, it's important that the keyword that you are looking for as a project manager is the keyword called control. So control is the keyword for the project manager, guys. So what is the keyword? How do you put all of this scope into control? Right? This is what you are responsible for as a project manager. So now, guys, I want us to discuss, right? How do you ensure that things do not spill out of control if you are going to manage a project? How do you get a grips of all of this responsibility, really? Any ideas?
I think the first thing is to have set goals. To have set goals, like what you are working towards, like list them clearly.
Have set goals and list them clearly. All right, thank you. Next person, Jessica.
I think what you can do first of all is to know the objectives of the project you're working on and the team, being able to understand them and know the people you are working with and how to relate with them.
Okay. What else?
Okay, in addition to knowing the objectives, setting goals, is to communicate effectively. Being able to communicate as a project manager with your team members to ensure that every point in time that you guys are right on track.
All right. Communicate and ensure that you guys are right on track. Now, the beauty of all that you guys have said is emphasizing one thing for us today. Rukeme, have you said something?
No, sir.
Why?
Okay, in addition to what they've said, in order for the project manager to be able to control the project, he needs to manage his time also properly, aside planning and directing. He has to manage his time properly.
Thank you. So the it costs a lot. Projects are very expensive. It do not just cost money, it costs resources, it costs energy, it costs several things. It costs strategy, it costs teamwork, it costs vision, right? All of these things are costs, the costs of the project. Yeah, so let's clearly we should be able to see the types of project that they work on affects the kind of responsibilities that you start to exhibit. I need you to put yourself in the role of a project manager right now, and I need you to take a journey with me in your mind. Now, you are a project manager, right? You are a project manager, and your life is never the same. Your life is never easy. You have kids to manage, you have things to do, all right? On top of that, you say you want to be a project manager. It means say you define wahala. That's what it means. So a project manager is the person who sits down and says, I don't like the way my life is going. I need my life to be full of wahala, right? Because you see, the day you say you want to start managing a project, that's the day you signed up for some deal of wahala. So usually when we do projects, because we do not assign the project manager to a project when there is no project. All right, the work of the project manager starts when there is a project. Do we get? So the project management role can be a remote role, it can be a temporary role. Do you get, guys?
Yes, sir.
So
Yeah, we're
I want you to
following.
start thinking like this. You can be hired remotely or
Yes, follow.
temporarily or on contract to do a role, all right, to discharge the duties of a project manager. So you can be temporarily hired for your expertise. And now this is it. So usually we do not assign to the project unless we are in the process of project initiation. So when we are in the process of project initiation, which is part of the life cycle of the project, that is usually when we introduce the project to the project manager or introduce the project manager to the project, whichever one. So we introduce both of them to each other. We say, oh God, this is the wahala that we've prepared for you, and this is the wahala you are going to carry for the next 9 months. All right, your life is never going to be the same. Now, once the guy is assigned, the guy becomes in charge of the project, but is not in charge necessarily of the resources. Are we listening?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
So the project manager is in charge of the project, not necessarily the resources. The resources is still our own. The resources is still our own in terms of the company, etc. Yeah. So what he starts to do is during project planning, which is a key responsibility, it starts to exhibit leadership. It starts to direct. So this guy starts to lead and direct during the project planning phase. During the project planning phase, he starts to lead, direct during the project planning phase. So we put him in that role to exhibit his superpower of direction, his superpower of leadership. right? Hello.
Yeah, we
So
are following,
when
sir.
we
Hi,
come
we're
back and we
hearing
ask
you.
him, how long is it going to take us to achieve deliverable number one, right? If he says it's going to take 3 weeks, he must also realize, he must also realize that unrealistic scheduling, all right, is his fault, and he should be able to handle those situations. Does it make sense to you?
Yes, it does.
So
Yes, makes
he must
sense.
realize that the unrealistic schedule is his fault, and he has to know how to handle those situations. What does that mean? That's the management of time and the monitoring of processes. What does that also mean? That means that in the management of time and the monitoring of processes, this guy should determine and deliver the level of quality required of the project. What did I say? My emphasis is on level of quality. You are not doing better in a project. You are doing some level of professional responsibility that is actually showing up in the quality of documents you are creating, the quality of things you are churning out, the quality of deliverables that your team is bringing out. Yeah? So this guy determines what's the quality of outputs we are going to bring out. What's going to be the quality of our slides? What's going to be the quality of our this? What's going to be the quality of our ads and stuff like that? So it determines the level of quality, and then it delivers that level of quality. That is what we define as management of what? Deliverables. Are we still together? Hello.
Yes.
So
Yes, sir.
when the team Adeyemo, I don't know if you're saying something, but I can't hear you.
No, I just answered. I said yes, we are still together.
Okay, so when the team starts to execute the project, when we are doing the execution of the project, right? What this guy does, yeah, is to assist the team. The assisting of team is what we refer to as coaching. Coaching. So coaching is a project management responsibility, right? So that coaching has taken on a lot of shirt and is now wearing shirt and tie in the corporate world under the disguise of product owner roles and scrum master roles. Do you understand, guys?
Please, sir, can you come again with
Yes, I
this coaching?
understand.
What should I come again with?
This coaching, the coaching.
Assisting the team is what we define as coaching. Coaching is an expression of assistance that is given to the team. So the project manager is a coach. Do you get it?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
So the project manager is a coach. Now, he's not just assisting the team, he's also assisting the other stakeholders. So he has to meet regularly with the stakeholders and deliver reports when the project is being executed. So during project execution, this guy knows his responsibility. Now, when project is being executed, one key thing that project managers do, right, is not just the management of documentation or the monitoring of processes. If processes are not going the way they should go, right, or whether they are going the way they should go, this guy should be able to create a change control system. So the project manager is responsible for creating a change control system. CCS, a change control system. So these are things you should write down because you are going to have to look for them, all right, holistically. Are we following? Remember, I told you that the responsibilities of a project manager is hinged on a keyword, and that keyword is control. Remember?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So, the Maintaining of control. This guy must maintain control throughout the execution of the project. The reason he is maintaining control is because he's ensuring that he must measure the performance of the project. So projects can start to be sick, projects can start to have hiccups, projects can start to be delayed, enthusiasm might be lost somewhere along the lines of the project. So it's supposed to be his responsibility to determine, should we take corrective action at this point or should we recommend corrective action? All right. If we are not taking corrective action, are we ensuring that the preventive actions are in place? So we have preventive actions that the project managers can take, and we also have corrective actions that the project manager is taking to ensure that the project is not sick. Hello? Now, is discharge of decision
We can
making,
hear you.
is decision making competency also affect his ability to say no? The guy must say no when necessary, right? The guy must be able to say no when necessary, all right? Because he has the authority and accountability to manage or accomplish the work of project management. So we do need him sometimes. When we change processes, we need this guy to integrate the project components. All right? We need this guy to be proactive. All right? So if this guy is reacting to problems, he will not succeed. If this guy is proactive, he will take more preventive actions than corrective actions. All right? If the project eventually fails, this guy is accountable for project failure. So it's either he's going to perform most of the task or he's going to delegate most of the activities. All right? So what this guy does is he creates a directory. Who are my team members? What are their names? How do we contact them? What's the measure of communication? So the guy starts with creating a project team directory, right? He starts to negotiate with the people managing the resources. Remember I told you he's not necessarily managing the resources, but he's in charge of the project, yeah? So he starts to negotiate with the guys who are in charge of the resources for the available resources, right? He starts to create job description for the team members because the team needs to know what they are doing. So it is the responsibility of the project manager to create what? JD. Are you following? He should define what is each member of the team doing, right? And how long are they doing it? Feedback. Confirm that everything I've just said is not jargon and it did not vanish in your brain.
It has not vanished, sir.
Okay. Now, in creating the job description, you should know that some members are not so good with some things. So it means that the team has needs, right? To be trained. So team members can get training. Team members can improve their skills and abilities. All right, but this guy should be able to identify the needs of the team members because the capacity of the team members would affect their performance, right? So which means that there should be a plan for training them. So as the team members are doing their job, this guy is creating project reports. So the project manager is a reporter. The guy is doing reports all the time. So he's creating reports on the members of the team and how they are performing. He's sending out letters of commendations to the team members and their bosses. He's making sure that the team members' needs are taken care of. And at the end of the day, this guy is both a leader and a manager. So a project manager is a leader and a manager at the same time. So as a leader, he's focusing on the vision. As a manager, he's focusing on the objectives. All right? As a leader, is focusing on what are we trying to do and why are we doing it. As a manager, is focusing on how are we doing it and when are we doing it. As a leader, is focusing on the longer picture, but as a manager, is focusing on the shorter scope of things, right? As a leader, is focusing on the people. Are my people okay? But as a manager, is focusing on the structure. All right. As a leader, is allowing everybody to have a process, a say in things, but as a manager, is taking decisions, is autocratic by nature. As a leader, is enabling, but as a manager, is restraining. All right. As a leader, it develops people, but as a manager, is maintaining processes. Are we seeing it? Are we getting what I'm trying to say? Hi guys, are we still here?
Yes, you're still here.
Yes, sir, yeah.
All right. So moving on, this is how he discharges his responsibility as a project manager. His work begins with planning, executing, monitoring, and control. That's how his work goes. So these are the responsibilities of a project manager. And so far, so good. We've looked at, like I said, the project manager competencies. Tomorrow in our class, we'll look at project management techniques, lifecycle tools, and processes. Right? So, guys, any questions and feedback? Over to you now. Since there are no questions, I will ask my questions. What is project management? Jessica.
Sorry, come again. I didn't
Project
hear that.
project management is how you use skills and techniques to plan and control tasks for projects to achieve results using resources. Yeah.
All right. Jessica, explain project management competencies.
I didn't hear you.
Did you hear me now?
My network was. I didn't join the class when you started. Oh.
And
I didn't join
you
the
were here
class
when
when
I
it
was
started
explaining the part
because
I
I
just
didn't have
asked.
the link. Really?
Yes.
My network was doing off and on. So you said I should explain which?
The competencies of a project manager.
I don't know. I'm sorry. I wasn't focusing on the class then.
All right. Can someone please explain to us the competencies of a project manager?
Um, Competencies of a project manager are the demonstrated behaviors of a project manager, like the behaviors he that has reflected in the person's behavior and that has been demonstrated and repeated. And some examples are decision making, communication, leadership skills, risk management, accountability.
Okay. Then lastly, before we move to the next slide and ask us to also explain that, I want someone to talk about stakeholders as well.
Okay, the stakeholders of a project, uh, those who are negatively or positively impacted by the project. Also, they could range from, depending on the project, they could range from the project management office, the project manager, the sponsors, the customers, that's the beneficiaries of the project, the team, that's the project management team, as well as the influencers.
Okay. So what do we do with stakeholders?
Okay, it is the duty of the project manager to be able to manage the okay, first identify the stakeholders, then manage them, be able to communicate with them during the process of the project, um, determine their requirements for like the team, determine the requirements of the team, determine the expectations of the maybe for instance the maybe like the CEO, uh, as well as manage their influences generally.
Okay. Thank you. So moving on. Lastly, responsibilities. Can we explain the responsibilities in our own words? Rukeme, you have not said anything. Jessica and Judith, you have also not said anything so far.
Okay, the responsibilities of a project manager, it includes planning, directing, delegating a project, and they all boils down to control. It all boils down to control. For a project manager to be able to effectively manage a project and to control it, he has to be able to plan, manage his time properly. He has to be able to use corrective actions to put things in place. And should in case the project is sick, it's the project manager that will be responsible, like he will be held accountable. So he has to put some measures in place for him to be able to effectively manage the project. And a project manager is not just a leader, but is also a manager.
Okay, interesting. All right. Thank you all so much. Now, I remember when I started, I said in the next 8 weeks, what you'll be learning would give you competencies enough to be able to um, write your PMP exam, right? It will cover the domain of people, process, and business, right? Most questions come forth from the process, then the people, and then the business domain. So there are three domains when you're writing the PMP exam. Your questions would come, a lot of questions, like 50% of the questions will come from how do you execute the project with the urgency, how do you manage communications, how do you assess and manage the risk, how do you engage stakeholders, how do you manage budget and resources, how do you manage the schedule. 50% of your questions for PMP exam will come from there, right? 42% of your questions will come from how do you manage conflict, how do you lead a team, how do you support the performance of your team, right? How do you build shared understanding, how do you engage and support virtual teams, how do you define ground rules, how do you remove impediments or blockers from your team, how do you build a team, how do you mentor relevant stakeholders and promote your team performance. These are like the things that will come forth from your exam, the PMP exam, okay? So these competencies are things you should start to think about, right? You start to think about them. as we go forward. So, I'm going to give you 2 questions, right, that you would work on tonight against tomorrow. So it's basically 2 questions. Trust me, they are very simple questions. Question number 1, are you guys writing?
Yes, sir.
Okay, let me share this slide again. Can we see my screen?
Yes, sir.
Okay,
Yes. See.
so question. Questions, class 1. Alright. That's question number 1. The attributes of successful project management. Then the features of a project. And lastly, why do projects go wrong? Do we get it? Okay, so let's give a
Yes.
specific number. At least I'm just explain 2 reasons. Yeah? Does this make sense?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So Jessica, Judith, Rukeme, CI, Adeyemo, confirm that you got this.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Alright. So ladies and gentlemen, this is where we close the curtains for tonight's class. If you learned something, please try to rest after the class, revise your notes maybe 40 minutes after your rest period, and then get on your assignments because you have to be ready by tomorrow. These assignments, we're reviewing them tomorrow, and it's going to be on Google Doc. Everyone is going to do a presentation on 5 minutes for their assignments. Do we understand?
Yes, sir.
Welcome to project management.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much.
Should be submitted on Google Docs. So ladies and gentlemen, it's a wrap from me to you. I hope you do enjoy the rest of your evening. Welcome to HCD for Project Management. Any feedback and comments? Do you think this class is too complex, is too serious, is too demanding? What are your thoughts so far?
Sorry, question 1. Is it Successful product management or product manager.
The attributes of successful project management.